Afternoon, everyone. How are you? I hope you're doing well. My name is Carl. Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL org, where we are looking forward to teaching English as a foreign language in 2023, which is about 21 or so days. Have I got my maths right? 21 or so days ahead of us right now. I put myself on the spot then by trying to work out the maths. Welcome, as I said, to this webinar. My name's Carl. I'm here in Northern Ireland, where I work for the TEFL org as a tutor, where I do the practical courses. So if you want to train up to be an English as a foreign language teacher, you might spend a weekend with me here in Northern Ireland or in the Republic of Ireland. We also offer courses all over the UK and over Europe, in America as well. So if you are looking to become an English as a foreign language teacher, this is the right place to be. Please say hello. Let us know where you are in the world. I can see Marianne in Bremen. Hello. Agil? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Hello, wherever you are in the world. Kimmy in Cornwall. Someone who's just called Things. I like that. Just keep it simple. Hello to you. Kish in London, Evangelina in Athens, Anne in Munich. Hello, everybody. Please let us know where you are in the world. It makes me feel happy to know that there are people all over there tuning in. It also helps Alan to know where people are in the world. He is monitoring the chat. He will put in any links like that. I also have a bit of a sore throat and a cough, so I apologise if I do have a coughing fit halfway through this. Right, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about where to TEFL in 2023, what to do, this kind of thing, looking forward to next year. I have been lucky enough to have taught in many places around the world, including some of the places where I'm going to be talking about today. If you do have any questions at all, please do put them in the chat. I'll get to them at the end of the mini presentation I'm doing. Doesn't have to be about 2023. It can be about anything at all to do about teaching English as a foreign language. So let's get going. So some people ask me, say if they want to teach in like 6 months or in 9 months time, something like this, they say to me, when should I start looking? And my answer to this is always the same thing. Now, sorry, you start looking now for whenever you want to teach. So we're here now in December 2022, and you might be thinking, okay, I want to start in January, February time. Well, you've really got to get on it, right? If that's the sort of time you're looking to start. Some people might want to start around the springtime in the Northern Hemisphere. Some might want to start the summer or the autumn. Whatever it is next year you want to start, now is the time to be doing it, okay? There are peak hiring periods. So there are periods where schools, and it depends on different parts around the world, want people to start. So, for example, January is quite a busy time to start a term. So they recruit teachers before that to start in January. Same thing talks about the spring, sometimes around the summer, and also around the autumn. So there are peak hiring periods, but schools advertise all year round. So some schools will advertise now to start next summer. Some schools might even start to look for next autumn. Sorry. Just wherever you are, wherever you're thinking of starting, just start looking now, okay? That's what I really recommend. Schools advertise all year round. But it takes time to get certificates, and it takes time to get your visas. That's the thing that you got to think if you're going to go abroad. It's a bit different if you're going to be teaching online. But if you are going to go abroad, you might need to get certified copies of your certificates, your degree certificates, your school leaving certificates, whatever it might be. You might also need to go through a visa process. That can take up to 3 months to get a visa. So you might think, okay, do you know what? I don't want to start till sort of April, May, but the actual period to get a job might take 3 or 4 months. It's a good time to start thinking sort of now for whenever you want to start next year. You will see the odd advert where they will advertise for someone to start in 9 months' time or 6 months' time, mainly because the schools want to be well organised. And that might suit you. that might suit you really well. Okay, so just look all the time for whenever you want to start, because you might see a job that you want to start in 9 months, which might suit you. Okay, so just go for it. Wherever it is, now is the time to look. Oh, I'm so sorry. The cough's just come on. Right, what do you need? Okay, the very first thing you need is a high quality TEFL certification. Now, what do I mean by high quality? Basically, you're looking for a TEFL course that has 120 hours of contact time. So that's 120 hours of you studying, of you working towards your certificate. That's the magic number that schools around the world look for. So if you go with us, our certificates are 120 hours. But if you don't go with us, and you know, I'd look carefully at the schools you're going to go with, but make sure it has that 120 hour magic number. The other thing is, you've got to be professionally accredited. Yeah. So what that means is the course has to be checked by an external body different from the course providers to make sure it's of good quality. Ours here at the TEFL org are checked by schools outside, checked by organisations that are nothing to do with us, to make sure that people like me are telling you the right thing and the materials are correct, all that kind of thing. Yeah. Then if you've got that, the next thing you've got to think about is any added extras. So what that tends to mean is like extra modules that might make you stand out a bit more. And I really do recommend these, especially to people that don't have a degree. So for example, you could do the basic 120 hour qualification, but you can also do extra modules, for example, in things such as teaching young learners. So the 120 hour certificate will give you a good grounding in TEFL. If you then add on a young learners module, then that will make you a lot more employable to people, because young learners tends to be the biggest market that's out there. Another one you might think about is teaching exams. So you've already got the certificate, you've got your 120 hours, and you're thinking, okay, I want to learn a bit more. You can also add in a module about how to teach exam work. That is, again, something that's quite marketable for you as a teacher if you want to set yourself up online, but it can also make yourself more employable, basically. So they're the sort of things that you might want to start thinking of as extra modules. Very simply, you've got to get your passport in order if you're going to go abroad. I once ran a school where I found a perfect candidate, and when I actually got through to checking all their paperwork and that kind of thing, their passport had expired. I said to them, you've got to get your passport. How long is that going to take? Oh, wait, in my country, it's going to take sort of 5 months to get the passport. They didn't get the job, basically. You've also got to make sure that there's a lot of availability on your passport in terms of the expiry date. Now, the other thing that you might need is a degree, depending on where you're going to go in the world and depending on the sort of work you want to do, for example. We've done lots of webinars in terms of how to teach abroad without a degree. We have some extra stuff on our website about how to teach without a degree. So it's definitely possible to get abroad teaching without a degree, but it does make it a bit more difficult. If you do have a degree already, you might need to get your certificate checked before you can apply for the visa. So that's just something to think about, these things here, okay? Right, where should you go? So quite often with some of my tutees, they say to me, I know where I want to go. Others, they come on the weekend course and they've got no idea where they want to go in the world. And it's very, very simply, where do you want to go? Because there is markets to teach English basically around the world. There are some areas where there's not a lot of jobs available, and that tends to be in countries where they speak English as a second language really well, such as Scandinavia, for example, big parts of Africa. But apart from that, wherever you want to teach, there's probably jobs available. In the UK, for example, there are jobs available teaching English as a foreign language. In Australia, in America, alongside all the traditional markets such as East Asia, South America, Southeast Asia, these kind of places. What you need to do is do some research. In terms of locations, is that the sort of place? Do you want to be in quite a calm place? Do you want to be in a big mega city? Where do you want to work? Do some research on it. Check the requirements. So do you need to get a degree? Does your country, does the passport you hold, is that allowed to get a visa there? Because some countries, unfortunately, only let working visas come from certain other countries. So do some research, check the requirements, make sure everything's okay, yeah? Then start looking at jobs. Go on websites such as ours, which is TEFL.org. We've got a job centre at the top. Click on that. There's loads and loads of jobs listed on there. See if any of those take your fancy. Are they the sort of countries you want to go to? Is that the sort of place you want to live in? Is the money right? That kind of thing. Other good websites are eslcafe.com. Another good one is TEFL.com. We are TEFL.org. We provide courses. We help people with jobs. We have blog pages, that kind of thing. TEFL.com is just a website for listing jobs. So look at the jobs on websites like that. Start thinking about the money. So look at the wages, think, okay, that's a good wage, that sounds like a lot, but is it enough for you to live in and have the sort of lifestyle you want? I've done webinars again just about money, but it tends to be that an advertised wage is good enough to live on and save a bit wherever you go in the world. You know, the companies don't want you to be poor, basically, because you'll leave. So they tend to be quite well paid. But just have a look at it. Think about if that's the sort of thing that you'd like to. Is that the sort of thing that you can live on? Yeah. Check practicalities such as flights, accommodation, how long the contract's for, things like healthcare, all this kind of thing. Check how many hours a day you're going to be teaching. Does that sound like a good number for you? Again, we've done webinars on this, so if you have a look on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page, you can see webinars that I've done where I've talked about what to look for in jobs and how to apply. But this is definitely something that's worth looking at when you think about where should you go. It's not really for me to say you should go to China, you should go to Japan, you should go to Colombia. You know, everybody's different. Everybody in their mind's got a place to go, and everybody's different in terms of where they can go depending on sort of their practicalities themselves that they have. Okay, right. But I'm going to talk a little bit about I should say, please do put the questions in there. I can already see that some questions in there. Although my voice is going, I promise you I will get around to all the questions. I just might need to get a bit closer to the microphone. Please do put the questions in there, and I promise we'll get around to them, okay? Right, so first of all, I want to talk about South Korea in terms of a good place to go for next year. Now, the reason being, it was actually, and we've got a web page, which I'm sure Alan will put a link in, which is about where to TEFL in 2023. And a little bit like this. Pages into detail has more links. I'm sure Alan will put the link in for me. But we do one of these every year about where to TEFL. And South Korea was on our 2022 list. And the reason being is that South Korea always has a market for teaching English as a foreign language. I've been teaching since sort of the early 2000s. It's always been open. It continues to be open. There's always jobs advertised. They have long-running programs that run really well. It's really well set up. It's a great place to go in 2023 as it is in 2022. The other thing, is that South Korea is very fashionable and popular at the moment. Yeah, and I think that there's going to be lots of people wanting to go there. South Korea always has a variety of jobs. So there's jobs advertised where they teach kids in private academies, private language schools. There's also government-run programs. There's also university programs. There's adults programs. There's lots of different things going on. So you will find a job in South Korea that probably suits what you think you'd be good at teaching. Usually also has quite good benefits, South Korea, in terms of flights, accommodation, the wage, insurance, this kind of thing. Tends to be quite clear what you're going to get. Tends to be very, very, a good lifestyle that you can have from it. It tends to be a good place to go as a very good, safe starting place to TEFL. It's very, very fashionable in terms of, Korean pop bands, Korean movies, that kind of thing. So it's very funky, and there's lots of interest in South Korea. So I really think that really is important. It's also very easy to get around once you're in South Korea. So you can journey around South Korea quite a bit, and you can get to lots of places very, very easily. So it is a good first place to go to on your TEFL teaching career. Yeah. Clayton, you have written in there about you need a degree for South Korea. Yeah, South Korea is one of the places where you do need a degree. Okay, there are ways around it in terms of going there and you go on a tourist visa and you go in and out, that kind of thing. I wouldn't really recommend that too much, but South Korea definitely is one of the places where you do tend to need a degree. Yeah, for sure. We've got more details about how, if you are interested in going to South Korea, there are places. There's a link that Alan's put in there about teaching in South Korea. So Vietnam is another place which I've spent a lot of time in Vietnam. I love it. I really recommend anyone that gets a chance to go there should go. Now, the reason why I think it's pretty good to go to in 2023 is it's a very growing economy. It's the people there are earning more and more money, so there's more and more jobs, and because of that, the people are willing to pay a bit more. You're also sort of, the students are quite keen because it really helps them to get jobs that are important to them to learn English. So I do think that's important. You don't really want to go and work in a place where the economy is going down too much, because who knows where you might be in a year. I think with Vietnam, it's definitely growing. Yeah, it's very well set up for tourism, so it's easy to get around. In terms of getting trains or flights or buses to the place you want to go to. I had a motorbike. I got around really well, got really easily. It's set up well for tourism, and there's lots of different places to see, so that works well. Your money in Vietnam does go quite far. If you're happy to eat, drink like a local, you will save lots of money and you will have great food and it'll be great fun. Vietnam can be a bit expensive if you just go all the time to tourist hotels, if you spend all your time in tourist restaurants. If you're willing to be local, your money will go really far in Vietnam. The students are fun. Some of my best students that I've had have been from Vietnam. They are quite open to the world. They're quite knowing, I found. They like to have a laugh. They like to, just have fun in the class in terms of playing games. I really found that with Vietnam. There's also loads to see and do. You go to the north, it's quite cold in the winter. Stay down south, tropical beaches. There's islands you can fly or get ferries to. There's inland sort of hills. It's a really beautiful place. There's lots to see and do in Vietnam. So that's why I reckon it's a good place for 2023. Thailand. Now, Thailand is very, very, very welcoming to people that are not from Vietnam, to expats. They tend to, they'd be so open to people from outside Thailand. They love meeting and seeing people from outside Thailand. There's a massive range of destinations in Thailand, from Chiang Mai in the north down to sort of Phuket and places like that in the south. Beautiful beaches, big mega cities such as Bangkok. There's a massive range of places you can get around. There's buses that are really good for tourists, which you can jump on, that kind of thing. Very, very useful, yeah. Again, I found Thai students to be really good fun. Having worked in Japan and in China, give me a class of Thai students or a class of Vietnam students over there anytime. They are open for more discussions. They like to have laughs. It's really good fun. They will take the mickey out of themselves. They'll take the mickey out of you. Give me that anytime. Thailand is very open to non-native speakers. So there doesn't seem to be this ill-conceived stigma towards non-native speaking teachers in Thailand that there is in other parts of the world. Okay, I hate the term non-native speakers because I think that anyone that has a good level of English is as good as anyone else at teaching. There's no evidence to say that a non-native teacher is worse than a native level teacher. Okay, Thailand is a great place to go to for that kind of thing. Yeah, it's also a great base to see the rest of Asia. So from Bangkok you can fly very easily to other parts of Asia quite cheaply. There's sort of budget airlines that fly in and out of Bangkok. There's also trains you can get down to Kuala Lumpur. You can get down to Singapore, that kind of thing. You can get a bus to Cambodia. There's a bus to well, I don't know if the bus to Burma is still running. I think it is still running. The bus to you can get a bus to Burma. You can get easily to Laos, Vientiane, Vietnam, that kind of thing. You know, it's a good base if you're in Thailand to see the other countries around it. Degrees you will see jobs advertised in Thailand without degrees. Again, it does sort of depend on the sort of job you're going to go for. Just something that's worth checking for. Yeah. Okay. So moving away from Asia, let's talk a bit about South America. Now, really, I think the number one destination to teach English as a foreign language at the moment in South America is Colombia. It's definitely the most open destination. Brazil, Argentina have markets. Venezuela did have a market until it went a bit wrong just in the years before COVID. Peru sometimes has a market for teaching English as a foreign language. But Colombia is definitely the most open destination in South America. The most welcoming. It's the easiest to get a job from outside. Brazil, Argentina, quite often they will say to you, you've got to be in country in order to get the job. Colombia tends to be a bit more open about it and let people in. There's a big demand for teachers in Colombia. It's a growing economy because obviously it had civil wars, that kind of thing. But there's definitely a big demand for teachers, for sure, in Colombia. It's cheap to live, so your wages go far. You might see some jobs advertised and think, well, that's not much money. I'm not sure I can live off that kind of thing. But it's really quite cheap once you're there. Beers are quite cheap. Food is quite cheap. Accommodation can be quite cheap. So wages do go quite far in Colombia. It's also really quite possible to go there without a degree. They will have a lot of jobs advertised where you see without a degree. If you do see jobs advertised with degrees, saying you need a degree, that might just be because the recruiters are putting that on there just because they feel they need to sort of make themselves more attractive to students, believe it or not, because they can say, oh, look, our teachers have degrees, that kind of thing. It's not actually a requirement for working in Colombia. So I would still apply for jobs, especially if you've got a good certificate with extra modules, that kind of thing. I would still apply for that in Colombia because it's definitely possible without a degree. Right, now the final two I'm going to group together are China and Japan, which, they're not really sort of out there left field choices because they are massive markets. And they have been for as long as I've been a teacher and way before that. The reason why I'm saying China and Japan is, as of this moment now, December, you might not see lots of adverts. Okay, you might not see lots of adverts saying, come work in China, come work in Japan. You'll see some, but not loads. The reason being is because they've just had quite strict COVID lockdowns. China, you've probably read about in the news. Japan was very anti-tourist, that kind of thing. So you might not see lots of adverts now because there's still this COVID sort of stigma holding up around it. But both of these countries are coming out of strict lockdown rules. And during those lockdown rules, there were a lot of teachers that left. There were people from America, UK, who wherever it might be, working there, and they stopped and they left China because they didn't want to be under those rules. They didn't want to be in Japan where, you know, you had to be quite strict about where you could go, that kind of thing. So a lot of people left, and they haven't really tend to come back. Quite often, teachers, once they leave, I've found in my experience, once they've left the country, they don't tend to go back. So China and Japan are coming out of strict lockdown rules, and it's something to bear in mind as you're looking forward to next year. There will also be less Chinese people going abroad to study. So a big part of Chinese university life, if you've got the money as a Chinese person, is to leave China and study in the UK and America and Australia. It's seen as a good thing. But there has been a lot of recent sort of talk about Chinese people staying within China. There's been a lot of universities that have set up campuses in China. And it's not such a thing for Chinese people to go abroad to learn English. So I believe there's going to be more jobs available next year in China. Because if there's less Chinese people going abroad to study English, there's going to be more demand in country. So I really think, and it's the same with Japan. Japan, not really with the studying abroad, but definitely coming out of lockdown, there's going to be more and more people wanting to learn English all of a sudden. And I do believe there's going to be lots of jobs available in China and Japan. Might not see loads advertised now in December, but I reckon in the new year, you'll start to see more and more being advertised. Finally, just want to talk a bit about online. Now, these online jobs will always be available. I believe that online is here to stay. And I think it's going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing for sure. It is, however, harder to get an online job, I think, now than it was a year ago. Now, there are still online jobs advertising. And there are still online jobs available, but I do believe it's harder and harder and harder to get some than it was a year ago, just because more and more people have got into it. So that's just something to bear in mind, but don't let that put you off. And I've done webinars again, just talking about teaching English online. It's definitely possible, but I do believe it's a bit harder. There might be slightly more competition than there was a year ago. Long term, there will always be a market for online. Students are more used to it. Schools are more used to it, that kind of thing. Definitely there's going to be a market online. I mean, I started teaching online about 7 years ago, and I still get people now asking me about teaching online. Yeah. The other thing to bear in mind, if you want to go abroad, you can be a digital nomad. There are countries that will offer digital nomad visas. There are restrictions around it. You've got to do your homework, that kind of thing. But definitely there are digital nomad visas out there. And that basically means is, for example, I would go to Spain, I would live in Spain, but I would teach online to people in China, for example. Something to have a think about, something to look at. Digital nomad is definitely an option. Long term, online, and set yourself up independently as an online teacher is the best way to go. That's where you recruit your own students, you do your own marketing, you set your own prices, you're your own boss. Long term, it takes a while, but long term, that is the best way to go. Whilst you work a little bit for them, you work a little bit for them, you set yourself up independently. Okay. Definitely, I think 2023 is going to be a big market for online because it's growing every year online. You see jobs advertised for universities where you just teach online. It's going on more and more in the future. Thank you very much for sticking with me there during my coughing fits and all that sort of thing. Please, if you do have any questions, I do think I've got a little bit better, so thank you. If you've got any questions, please do put it in the chat. Okay. Let's see. Geneva. Hi. How are you, Geneva? Hope you're doing well. You are applying to a school teaching 2 to 17-year-olds. Okay, it's a big range. You do not see yourself teaching 2-year-olds at all. 2 is very young, Geneva. I mean, at the age of 2, I don't think I've ever taught a 2-year-old. I'm trying to think, like I've got a 7-year-old kid myself. Do 2-year-olds know how to speak that well in their own language? I'm not so sure they do. So good luck with that. Right. What I would say is how to tell the school. Right. So 2-year-olds, I would say a lot of 2-year-olds would be sort of you reading to them stories, probably not very long lessons, sort of about 45 minutes maximum, hopefully about 20-30 minutes. Having some puppets and playing little games and this kind of thing, all that kind of thing. Right. So I would say that probably most of your jobs won't be teaching 2-year-olds. The biggest market tends to be around the age of 10 years old. So that's probably what you'd be saying. Now, what you would first of all, I'd say is, okay, well, look, I've not taught 2-year-olds, but this is my plan for them. And I'm sure there are blog pages out there for people that have said they've taught kids that young. But definitely get in things like telling stories, this kind of thing. What you like teaching most about young children? My stock answer is to say they can learn very, very quickly. They have good imagination. They're willing to have lots of fun in the classroom. That's my stock answers when I say about teaching kids. I would not worry too much about the 2-year-olds. I bet you there's not that many as you think there would be, Geneva. I would say that probably the average age you teach would be about 10. Yeah. Good luck about that. Please do let us know if you ever do teach 2-year-olds. I don't know anyone else that's ever taught a 2-year-old. That could be your niche, Geneva. And also, the other thing I would say is, I always said when I first started teaching, I would never teach kids. When I actually got round to teaching 4 and 5-year-olds, it was the most fun and I absolutely loved it. Never say never to teaching young kids. That's what I would say. Also, it definitely helps your CV and it makes yourself more employable if you teach kids. Good luck, Geneva. I hope it works out. Kylan or Killan, is it? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Does the type of degree matter or just any degree? Right. So no is short answer. However, right. Basically, what they want is for you to have a 3-year or 4-year, because some countries' degrees are 4 years, degree. And it tends to be able to be in any subject at all. Yeah. It doesn't really matter what subject it's in. Can be in, geography, can be in business, can be in linguistics. I mean, I've got a degree in linguistics, but I also have worked with people that have degrees in history, have degrees in economics, that kind of thing. You will see jobs advertised where they will sort of say things like, you'll be teaching business English, we'd like someone with a business degree. You will see that sort of thing advertised. But generally, on the whole, as long as it's a 3 or a 4-year degree, that's all that matters. Yeah. We've got some more information like that on that page I showed you about where to TEFL in 2023. So that might be worth having a look at, kind of. But no, any degree's fine. Okay. Good luck. I hope it works out. Arvind, hi. What's the best way to get classroom teaching experience before applying for jobs? Right. Different ways. So if you're going to be teaching face-to-face, you probably want to get a bit of face-to-face experience. There probably is, now I don't know where you are in the world, Arvind, but there probably is within 2 or 3 miles of you a language school. If you're in a town or in a city, you might not know there's one, but there is, wherever you are in the world. I mean, I'm in Northern Ireland where everybody speaks a form of English, and there are 2 language schools within about 3 or 4 miles of me. If I was in Spain, or if I was in Vietnam, or if I was in China, or if I was in South America, and I was in a town or city, there'd be more than that within 2 or 3 miles of me. I would, if you want to have a bit of experience, I would contact them and I'd say, do you have any volunteer classes that I can help out with? You never know. The other way is to go on to try and find again, depending on where you are in the world, Arvin, is to try and find local refugee charities where you're teaching English to refugees. There is a great charity online called RefuNet, refu.net. You'll see that. If you put that into Google, you'll find that information about that, where you teach online to people wanting to learn English for free. Great place to get experience, no pressure. Or you can contact the local churches, contact the local mosques, see if they are running any classes for people trying to learn English. Try those, Arvind. Good luck. MC Deepak, sorry, I haven't highlighted your question, but I just want to answer your question there about how about Mexico. Mexico is, again, another great destination. Nothing leaps out for Mexico for next year. That's why I didn't include it on the list. But there are always jobs advertised in Mexico, for sure. There's always work there. My wife worked in Mexico. She absolutely loved it. But nothing leaps out, especially about 2023 in Mexico. But if it's the sort of place you want to, go for it. You'll love it. Good luck. Clayton, hi. Are most TEFL teaching jobs nomad classroom type deal? Does that mean go abroad? Is that what you mean? Right, most people do TEFL, get a TEFL certificate to go abroad. That tends to be the main reason that most people get, or to teach online. That tends to be the reason why people do a TEFL certificate. But there are, as I sort of just said above to Arvind, there will be colleges around you where there's probably work available. So it depends where you are in the world, Clayton, that kind of thing. And some people do get a TEFL certificate to work in their own town. I do know people that do that. But most TEFL jobs are to go abroad. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Clayton? I'm not sure if it does. Please do put into the chat if I haven't answered your question. Kimmy, hi. Where would be a good place to advertise students we send up independently? I have found, so basically you've got to get like a marketing funnel, and I would be very careful about paying for adverts. So when I say marketing funnel, that means you've got a bit of YouTube, a bit of Facebook, a bit of Instagram, pushing people towards something to sign up. The best thing to do, I think, is to do lots of different ones, not just concentrate on one. That's what I'd say. If you're going to pay, you've got to really know what you're getting yourself into, because it's very easy to lose loads of money to Mark Wahlberg and whoever owns Google and that kind of thing. Make sure that you know exactly what you're going to do and how to get it. There's loads of videos on YouTube to help you with that kind of thing. But I'd say it kind of depends on who your market is. If you're trying to get younger people, they like this thing called TikTok. I think even TikTok's gone out of fashion now. Isn't there something called Be Real or something? I don't advertise on either of those because I don't really understand it. I've had lots of luck with Facebook and lots of luck with Google. That's what I would say. But not one way, different ways to push people towards your website. Okay. Thank you, Lucinda. Thank you for saying feel better soon. I'm trying my best here. Mohammed, do you know what? Actually, I should also say about 5 minutes before this webinar, I was doing actually really well, and then all of a sudden the coughing came. Sorry, Mohammed. Hi. Is it easy to get a job in South America for non-native English teachers such as Peru, Brazil, moreover? What about China? You've covered a big chunks of the world there, Mohammed. Right. Right. What I always say to a non-native teacher, if you see jobs advertised where it says native teachers only, firstly, that company might be saying that just because they think it's like an old historical inaccurate stigma that says they need native speakers. I would ask them, what do you say is a non-native speaker? I have IELTS level 8. I have a Trinity certificate level 10. Whatever it might be to show your level of English, they might say, actually, yes, that is good enough to be classed as a native speaker. I know plenty of native speakers whose English isn't that good in writing, for example. I would contact a company and say, what do you mean by native speaker? They might reply with, it has to be people who have a passport from the UK, from Ireland, from Australia, from Canada, an English speaking country. That might be nothing to do with the company. It might have come from the foreign office or the government of that company, saying from the country where that company is based, saying these are the only people whose passport we will accept to get a business visa. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do about that, Mohammed. Right. Now, South America is one of the better places to go if you don't have a native level. You don't have you're not a native speaker, whatever that might be. And I don't really like saying it really, because I think that anyone whose English is of a high level is a native speaker, I believe. Right. As I said, Colombia is good. Now, the problem with South America is there's not a huge amount of money knocking around in South America. So they don't tend to pay for flights. They don't tend to pay for good level of accommodation. They don't tend to pay for your visas, that kind of thing. Some do, but not all of them do. So a lot of the countries down there in South America, they want you to already be in the country with a visa in order to give you work. Brazil is massive for that. You hardly ever see jobs advertised outside Brazil. It's not to say that there are no TEFL jobs in Brazil, but you tend to have to already be there in order to get work. The same sort of goes for all the countries down there, except for Colombia. As I said earlier, you will see those advertised outside because Colombia is a growing economy, that kind of thing. Now, China, again, there are strict rules from the Chinese government about who can get a working visa depending on whatever passport that person has. It's got nothing to do with the companies. It's to come from the Chinese government. But what I always say to people, if you're struggling because you think you're up against the native speaker brick wall, is apply to places where you might not know much about. China has massive cities outside of Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Shenzhen. My favorite place in China is a place called Kunming. It is beautiful. I would live there tomorrow. Not many people have heard of it. Apply for jobs there. You might be more likely to get round this native speaker brick wall because there are less people from the UK, from America, from Australia applying to go there, Mohammed. That's what I would say. And I probably spent about 3 minutes longer than I should have done exploring the answer. But that's what I would suggest, Mohammed. Look beyond the big cities. Look beyond the places which you would have heard about. There's going to be more opportunities if you do that kind of thing. All right? Good luck, Mohammed. Good luck. Kimmy, which are good agencies, companies? Right, so basically you've got to go with the normal job websites. So if you go to TEFL.org, you go to the top, you go to the job center, you will see jobs advertised there to teach online. If you go to ESL Cafe, you will find jobs. If you go to this link here, you'll be able to find jobs to say about teaching online. It's not an agency so much. Don't give money to an agency. You might find agents advertising, but the best way is for you to go direct to the companies and go on the normal job websites and just see. Okay. Viola. What is the best way to market yourself? I would say with a nice hat, probably a beautiful scarf. Viola, that's a joke. What's the best way to market yourself? Right. I don't think there's one best way. I think you've got to have a bit of everything. And there is software out there that will allow you to make one post and get it to Twitter, get it to Facebook, get it to Twitter after Elon Musk took over. I've got no idea. I never used Twitter, but it will push you to LinkedIn. So I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook, I have Instagram. I can make up a little picture of me doing something or other, put a snappy headline. I also do YouTube, sorry, and I can get it to push to all of them at the same time. I don't think there's one. It depends, if you're going after Chinese students, Instagram, Facebook doesn't work. If you're, you've got to go with the Chinese platforms. It really does depend on where you are. I think a very underused place is Reddit, Reddit. I think that there's probably people on there that you can find. That's what I would go for and have a look at. But it depends. If you want to, it really does depend. I do lots of different ones until you find one that tends to work. You can't really go wrong with Google. That's the other thing as well. Making sure that your website is search engine optimized, that kind of thing. Yeah. Good luck, Viola. Evangelia. I'm sorry. I've butchered your name probably in 4 or 5 different ways there. Do you need to be a native speaker to teach in Thailand? No. You'll see jobs advertised there for people that are non-natives. However, you will see jobs advertised for people that say native speakers. Email that job. If you like the look of that job, email that job and say, look, my English is at this level. Do you count me as a native speaker? I bet you'd be surprised. I bet it works. Okay. Sam, hi. Sorry for being late to the webinar. No need to apologise. Actually, there is no need to apologise. Go sit in the corner, Sam. Your question is about recruiters. The one helping me is super eager. No. Is that a red flag? No, you might be super great, Sam. What would give me red flags is if they're asking for money. That's the number one thing. But as long as they're answering your questions in a good way, as long as they're not sort of hiding anything, Sam, I think that's absolutely fine. I wouldn't say that that's being super eager. No. I mean, you're not trying to date them, are you? You're just trying to get a job. If you like the sound of them, go for it. No, I don't think that's a big red flag. Not at all. Klings, hi. Do you know what, Klings? I always want people to ask about this. I think Russia is a great place to go in TEFL. I've spent a bit of time traveling around Russia. I loved it. Everybody I know who goes and teaches in Russia loves it. Moscow is tricky because it's really, 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 really expensive in Moscow. But outside Moscow, it's fine. Now, this was all before the Ukraine thing. But I think it's a great place to go. And I think you can really go without the Russian language, for sure. Every country I've ever been to, Klings, Kazakhstan is next to Russia. Azerbaijan, I'm trying to think of other countries where I've taught which are part, ex-USSR. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, I've taught in both those places. I did not know a word of Russian, Azeri or Kazakh. I got on absolutely fine, Kings. Russia today, with everything that's going on, I'm not sure how, you've got to be really careful in terms of the visas, in terms of can you send money back and forward. That's the other thing I would check. But apart from that, I think, Russia would be a great place to go in TEFL, for sure. Let's see, what's the next question? Sorry, I can't find the next question. My screen just jumped. William, hi. Does the subject of degree matter? Engineering? No, PGCE. William, if you've got PGCE, you might also want to look into working at international high schools. Tends to pay a bit better than TEFL. But what they tend to want is to have a PGCE and a TEFL certificate. Subject of a degree, no, it doesn't matter. Engineering degree, you'd be great to go work at university, William, for example. Good luck. Killen again, hi. Does native mean native to English? Or a country wants someone who speaks their... No. So native means someone who speaks English. schools around the world tend to not want somebody who can, right, for example, Vietnam won't say you must have, a Vietnamese school won't say you must have Vietnamese to a certain level as well as English to a super high level. Now, there are restrictions to that, and some parts of South America and some parts of Central Europe say they want you to have the local language, and that's just because they want you to settle in more easily. Some schools will say that. But once you're in the classroom, you don't speak the local language. Once you're in the classroom, you only speak English. And if it says native speakers, it's asking for English native speakers or English native level speakers. If that answers your question, Kim, I think it does. Yes. Maria, is 58 too old? No. Maybe. Aussie British citizen with a DTLLS. I don't even know what that is. Experience teaching hairdressing, barbering, literacy, numeracy, life skills, ESOL at college. Whew. Right, Maria. There are countries around the world that have an upper age limit in terms of getting a working visa. And that does depend on where you go in the world. What if you could get a European passport to add to your Aussie and the British one, you'd be absolutely fine in Europe. Online, you'll be absolutely fine. But there are places around the world which do have an upper limit. And that, that's approaching your age, Maria. I'm not going to lie to you. So it can be too old, but there are definitely options out there for you. Okay. Mohammed, please provide a wide list of most common destinations. I used to have a big map up there. Mohammed, I'm not going to do that. It would take me too long. But if you go on our website, you will find a list of places to go as a non-native speaker. Okay, I've done webinars about this as well. Have a look at that. Okay, good luck. Sophia, TEFL in Italy. I'm just going to get to two more questions, I think, and then I'm going to be done. TEFL opportunities in Italy, the big cities, Rome, Milan. Italy is a bit unlike Spain, that they don't tend to advertise for outside. If you really want to go to Italy, I would get a cheap Ryanair EasyJet flight to where you want to go, and I'd have a walk around and just say, go for a weekend and sort of say, right, I'm going to come back in, go to the schools and say, hi, are you recruiting? The other thing I would say about Italy is contact the schools directly through, go on Google Maps, find a city you want to live in, type in language schools, loads will highlight for the city because there's loads of language schools in Italy. Click on them, email them, say, hi, do you have any vacancies? That's what I would say. It's very common in Italy to go work a little bit for one school, a little bit for another school, a little bit for another school. They don't tend to be, there are, but they don't tend to have full-time jobs with one school as in EFL. Good luck. Great place to go. Beautiful pizza. William, applicants age frightened potential employers 70. 70, I'm afraid, is at the top limit. You're just not going to be able to get visas, William. Which, the other problem as well is it's unfortunately it's health insurance. People can't sometimes get health insurance for people that age, which I know I don't want to sound ageist, William. I just want to be realistic to you. Europe definitely is the right way to go. Yep, LinkedIn CV is also good for TEFL jobs. Don't know about Glassdoor, but LinkedIn is good. I don't think I've got any more time. Thank you very much, everybody. Please, if you did enjoy this webinar, please do give it all the thumbs up and the likes and put in the comments that you liked it. I'm really sorry about the coughing and my throat going earlier. Please have a good Christmas wherever you are in the world. The webinars will be starting again in January. We also have loads and loads of other ones that I've been doing for the last couple of years. So worth looking on YouTube for that list. We also have a great podcast that we offer about teaching abroad. We interview people that have been taught abroad. I think that's a really good thing to be listening to. We've got loads and loads and loads of information on our website, tefl.org. Please send us a message if you've got any questions. Alan will answer the question. We've got a Facebook group. There's loads of ways to get in touch with us. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas. Have a good weekend.